Hello and happy Tuesday, everyone. Today I came back to the other side of this cherry biome. I have found some good spruce forest, including a nice little hill that just has a small patch of snow, and I love that. It gives for like kind of an icy vibe, and I'm missing home. For those of you that don't know me, I grew up way far up north, so above the 60th parallel, and that means, yeah, I grew up with lots of snow, and lots of opportunities to wander around in the Pine Hills. So, well, it's pine and spruce, but really it's mostly spruce up there. It's everywhere, and it's a very different landscape because it's technically semi-arid. So it's not a desert, but it's just short of being a desert. It receives a lot of snow, but it doesn't receive a lot of rain in the summer. I mean, there are exceptions and pockets, but for the most part, where I grew up, you just don't get a lot of precipitation. So even in the winter, it's very dry. So when it's minus 40, you still, I mean, it's still bad. It's still minus 40, and that's Celsius for any crazy people who don't want to use a number system that uses easily multiplied decimals that you don't have to think about at all, and instead favors a broken number system that has a bunch of prime factors to memorize. Okay, anyway, enough about that, but 40 years, what was I saying? 40 below. Okay, so 40 below in the Yukon, it's just a different kind of cold, because if you're somewhere rainy, when it's even like -1 or -5, it really grips at your bones and starts to pull in. And so I think people from more humid climates hear 40 below and think like there's no way to survive that, and that's kind of true in the Arctic. I mean, with the right gear you can survive almost anything if you're willing to count a habitat as gear, but the challenge with cold is, it definitely has a high capacity for absorbing heat. So cold, humid air will cool you down a lot faster than cold, dry air. Why am I talking about all of that? I'm thinking about humidity, aridity. I'm thinking about the climate that this kind of structure might be in. And I also like this idea of underwater bases, basically taking an underwater hill and then covering it in glass and then removing the hill underneath the glass. So what you're left with is just an impression of what the hill used to be, but you don't have to subtract any space. There's no unnecessary block placement, I guess. You're just removing blocks that were already there, so you're kind of building with the landscape, which is very wu-wei. So that's one of those things I like to do here. But I'd like to do this in a place where the water freezes. So if it's below 0 in the biome and you get water freezing, then I can do an underwater base and incorporate ice into instead of glass, basically. So if I'm in a cold climate, I can use ice instead of glass. If I'm in a warm climate, it doesn't really make sense. So I mean, obviously this is a very fantastical sort of concept, kind of winter wonderland. And I mean, absolutely, it's seasonal, given the time of year. It just got the first I think it was above 20 the last time I was out. Yeah, doing, well, Comic-Con. It was a comic convention, so I went and handed out free copies of Compost Cup. So if I gave you a card, hello, welcome to the channel. Yes, I'm also a Minecraft YouTuber. How do I even describe? I mean, I'm a sculptor, storyteller, Minecraft YouTuber, songwriter, singer, manga artist. Oh, more like artist. Okay, so let's see. I'm wanting to make something very wizardy is sort of the vibe I want to go for here. But I'm kind of sussing out how I want the overall shape of this tower to be, because I'd like it to be interlocking. What I've noticed here is these two are literally one block apart, so I can't make the transition to this width without actually carrying it forward. Okay, let's see. So I have to carry this wall up this way, because as soon as it narrows, it's on a new scale. So if I made this gap over back here, then I'd remove some leaves, yeah, and then I'd also not have sort of a cup shape in this. So what I'm thinking of is like a series of interlocking trees, or like a trunk that's been broken, and then one tree in the center that's like sort of surpassed the rest, and from there I think it's pretty much organic. So let's see. Yeah, but Comic-Con was fun. This was, let's see. I think it was RainCaf is the name. So Rain City Comic Arts Festival. There's also VanCaf, and it's apparently meaningfully distinct from Rain City Caf. And so that one isn't happening this year, but you know, I mean, there was still a calf, and as far as that's all right in my books. As long as there's some kind of calf, we're good. So yeah, not in a Baal worshiper way, but I mean, yes, in a coffee addict sort of a way, also, but. You know, as long as there's a calf, you know, I'm all right. I'm happy. Let's see. Am I a Baal worshiper? I don't know what that even means. What would that entail as an atheist? Or, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm comfortable using that label, but well, there is no but. There is no. Well, there's always a but, because it's attached to you. You can't really get away from it. Okay, so that has an enclosed floor, that has an enclosed floor. This would need a little bit more to achieve that. I feel like this is already overbuilt. Like, unless I just use this for, oh, how do I say it? If I don't complete it as a structure, but I just give it as like ambience or like background, like a backdrop. Let's see. That looks good. Okay, and then we can complement that with another one here. I'm just not scared of sheep. Just eraser. There and there and yeah, just following this ridge line. Let's see. I have a lot of comics. I haven't had a chance to read any of them. Just like post meeting people fatigue. Yeah, so I've basically been passed out since then. That's alright. Resin projects are going well. Still collecting footage, but you know, that's coming in the next week or two. Okay, so this is what I mean, right? I've kind of got this and that antenna in the center. It definitely does look wizardy, so I've succeeded in that. I think I'm going to add more roots just to kind of procrastinate on figuring out how this build is going to go in the broad sense. Are these like wilderness chickens? What is this? You sick fade. Huh. Do you see that? That chicken has like, yeah, a fade. He's got a greaser. Well, he's got a greaser slick back and a fade. Killer combo. Kind of guy who expects you to call him daddy on the first date. Embarrassing. Alright, so how do we do this? Here we go. What do I look like at this? Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun. Okay. Well, I guess that would imply he's going to kill the old man. Guy who wants to be a murder victim on the first date. That takes real dedication. That's a man I respect. I mean, you know, I don't know. Do I even add a disclaimer or something? How do I qualify that? I don't. No, I stand by it. Okay, but that's what that chicken is like, is my point. Big fan. That little grass clump can stay. Good bluegrass clump. I'll make it a doorway. Let's see. A little bit more wood here. I might want to make sort of a lightning strike impression. Throw some charcoal or blackstone around. But let's finish off this root because I had a plan for this as well. And we've got a couple of like oak trees, so I may pepper in some oak blocks. My plan for this series is to start by just doing one of every type of tree, but yeah, it's embarrassing. I don't know the exact number, but it's like 16 different things. I know I'm wrong on the number, and I'm gonna get blasted in the comments, but you know, it's fine. So my commitment was going to be to only use one wood type per structure until I've done something unique with all of them, and then start doing like combinations, because it's kind of especially at the transition between biomes, like just looking at the colors. Because different biomes will give different leaf types, different colors. So birch as I recall, is immune to this effect, but they might have updated that since I mean, it looks the same, I think. The birch leaves here and the birch leaves there, but it's purely a biome thing, right? So if you look at the spruce trees, they're, I believe, also immune to this. But if you look at the oak, this isn't really what oak usually looks like. So in a forest biome where you've got oak trees, usually they're like a brighter green. I am struggling to find an example right now. Look, right there, right on the far hill, there are oak trees, and they're in a oak biome or in a forest biome, the standard sort of one, and they are this like bright green color. But even right across here in this other biome, there's this like slightly bluer leaf color that happens. And I like that color. And the interesting thing is, even if you do jungle leaves, you still get this really pleasant like blue-green or like woad color, but with the dappling. So it's not a natural thing, right? Like you need shears in order to get that result, you know? So there's this kind of like synthetic transplanted tree thing going on. Yeah, even just in the base game. I think that's kind of neat. Let's see. Let's go a little bit further with this and just dig down into the hill a ways, but not go too crazy. And then this, I think we can build out a bit without it looking too overdone with the roots. I just want it like, you know, part of the landscape. Because there's like, I don't know, there's so much that the landscape itself does to suggest and inform like what to do in a build. So I find it really helpful. You know, if you build with terrain, like 50% of your work is already done. Yeah, I didn't have to build this hill. It's also just inspiration. You know, game generation is like so interesting. I need to make some like generation mods. Yeah. Definitely, there's a lot to learn to get to that point. But you know, they say the best time to plant a tree was 50 years ago. The second best time is today. So take that advice to heart. And is that a golden pig? Golden pig. Okay. So apparently lots more variants for all of the different biomes and the critters therein, which is very neat. I'm very impressed by that. Although I do feel like regular Minecraft feels a lot more like modded Minecraft. And that feeling just gets more and more intense as the years go by. For me anyway. I just remember, it wasn't Skyblock, but it was like a Skyblock based challenge that involved composting, and you could get every block without having to. You could get every block from a Skyblock with water and lava, so that you get cobblestone, you grow trees, you get saplings from the trees, you make a composter. At that point, composters weren't in vanilla Minecraft, but I don't remember the name of it. The only thing I remember is there were like different highly advanced weapons, and some of them were like crystalline or shiny or glowy or something. And I think there were enchantments in the base game at that point, but I just remember it has a much more like mythological or mythic quality. And with the addition of the mace, like that's also kind of coming into it. And I kind of miss something I felt like Minecraft was doing a long time ago, which was more like, if you know the game Rust. I've only played a little bit of it, but it's got this very lonely feel, and it feels very like post-apocalyptic. And I mean, that might be the most clear expression of it, but it kind of feels like the world is somehow empty in this older paradigm of Minecraft. And I miss that. Really, for me, that feeling went away almost completely with the addition of villages, and it's just never come back. There's no, like, I don't know, whenever I encounter a village, I just think of, well, it's inhabited, but they're not really, I don't know. Should I be? I don't want to be mean to villagers, but I don't like them. They're just not. I don't find them interesting. I think their structures are really boring, and the setting is so interesting, but the villagers are so Squidward. And I mean, I know other people, right? I'm not alone completely in this, but like, to say they ruined the entire vibe of the game for me is not entirely untrue. There was a time when I was very upset about the existence of villagers. So sometimes what I will do is I will make something I call a ghost village, where I remove everything in a village except for the glass planes. So it just leaves these hanging slivers of glass, and that's the only evidence that there ever was a village there. Is it a meticulous process? Yeah. Is it eerily reminiscent of colonialism? Yeah, also. So let's just try to ignore that. No, I don't know. Boo to colonialism. Let's stick with that. Dun dun dun. Here we go. I think I want one more connection up to here. That's at the right height. Okay, let's just be... Yeah. Okay, so that's good. And then I want this to be more of like a balcony or a porch sort of idea. I'm still gonna make this like this. Let's see. I had a little bit of a sailboat thing going on. I'm just gonna try and see if I can preserve that feeling. I think the best way to like really ensure that sailboat vibe is to give it a crow's nest, because that just screams Age of Sail. There's like nothing, I think, that's like as emblematic of like a wooden sailing ship than a crow's nest. And why do I think that? You know what? I can't possibly justify that statement. So let's see. Now you might argue villagers aren't real, so it doesn't really matter how you treat them. And to that I say, everything that you experience in your life is a reflection of your soul. And the choices you make in video games matter, if only for the fact that they matter to you. You know, it's the choices that you make in your own imagination. But then again, does it make you evil? Would I like really hold a grudge against somebody? Would I really hold a grudge against? Would I like really hold a grudge against somebody for playing like the bad character in a video game? No, of course not. So I don't know. I guess I just judge myself. Isn't that great? Yeah. Judgment for me, but not for the Is that reassuring? I feel like that's just sad and like a little pointless. It's like this Puritanism that kind of seeps into everything once one has experienced it, even a little. I think I'm gonna build this up rather than adjusting that one. But I did want a precipitous fall. Yeah, no, I do actually want that. Okay, so then I'm gonna do this, and that, and this, and that would do... Okay, that looks good. Yeah, so it gives it just a little bit of shape to this bell that I'm building. But I think this is gonna be like the sort of tower part of the wizard tower. So 3 blocks, 2 blocks, 4 blocks, 5. There we go. Okay. And then I just want to take this and connect it to the base there. So I don't want to make it any bigger than it needs to be. I'm going to keep like a sense of scale, a sense of like sort of normality. And I think like when I make something too big, it just kind of it like glares out on the landscape. I do want it to kind of like fit. Of course, this is quite big. This is quite a monument here. But yeah, I'm gonna hide the glowberries that aren't like the one on the mast. I do like that effect. I don't know if I'll revisit that, but I do want to tuck these berries where like they aren't going to be immediately visible from far away. So you kind of get the impression that the light is just kind of emanating from inside the structure. Yeah, but I also want to start adding ice and just see where we get with that. So maybe I can do like a curtain. And I'm choosing something that doesn't really melt on its own. So dark blue ice. Or just blue ice. But this is also not transparent, so I'm gonna have to do something about that. Yeah, but how does that look? I wonder if I do packed ice, if that's enough to give it that clear. Does it? No. I might just have to go blue glass. The problem is glass next to a light source, right, immediately makes water. So I need to be very strategic about how I place the clear ice. Yeah, but I can do like core of one and then the other. And I don't even know if this is still in the snow biome. So I'm just going to leave that little section and see what happens. Yeah, because if it starts melting now, then it'll be a smaller problem if I don't add as much for now. Okay, so then let's do this last one. 1, 2, 3. Go down and see what we line up with, and if it's nothing, then we'll do what we did over here and we'll build it out and then go up and up and stop there and then have that. And I think just because that looks so perfect. I'm actually going to use that to make a little detail here. I think I'm going to make an eyeball. Because that's, I mean, what else do you put on a wizard tower? To be totally honest. Like, it's like getting a hot, like not putting an eyeball on a wizard tower is like not putting ketchup on a hot dog. It's like pathological behavior. Let's see. Relish, mustard, all those things are optional. But ketchup, I don't know. If you don't put ketchup on your hot dog, I don't know if we can be friends. That's, but if you do, I also don't know if we can be friends because I don't know you. But you know, usually I'm open to trying to form a connection. Somebody who's like interested in getting to know me. Do we want that one? I think I'm going to leave out that and have it like that. There we go. Classic eyeball. Awesome. Okay. I'm just going to keep it really simple there. Keeping with the sort of sailing idea or the sort of ship idea. And just carrying on making, I don't know, is this like a forecastle? Forecastle? That is how you say it. So, yeah, I mean, I think, well, I don't know, if this is the deck, okay, it's like a ship, okay, I'm not going to say that it's definitely like 100% mirroring, like a classic ship, but it's trying, okay, it's trying its best, just don't be mean, you know, yeah, here, and we'll get rid of this and that, and does that actually look good? Not really. I think I'm gonna try, I don't know, does that make any sense? Yeah, I guess it makes a little sense. We can just give it plenty of time to reach that height, and then, yeah, so it branches out, and then it kind of holds from a couple different perspectives. That's kind of neat. I really want it to line up, though. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Can't always get what you want. Let's see, so now it hasn't snowed, and I don't really want to rely on like the random timer. So the only things that I know had snow on them were these three trees in the center, and that lines up basically with like this, and this. So this little triangle, I think, will have the right sort of biome conditions for ice. So let's check if this ice melted at all. Looks like we got away with what we added. So I'm going to try adding a little bit more. And then just like work up from there. But I would like to make like a hanging curtain of clear ice. I think the thing that's saving my bacon here is the fact that even if it's in a warmer biome, that it's just that it's like directly underneath something, so it's actually shadowed out and the sun doesn't really reach it. Yeah, so is that like ideal? Not really, because if anything changes up top, then that situation changes as well. So like if there were a fire, then suddenly it would melt. Which would actually be kind of a helpful thing if I set up these ice blocks sort of like intentionally to quench like a fire. Let's see. It also creates like kind of a limitation because, for example, I couldn't put ice there. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe I could if I. Yeah, well, let me think about how to do that, but I think for now, I want to have this, and I'd like to have it encased in leaves. There we go. How would you like your grilled cheese? Encased in leaves, obviously. Please, like what else? What else would you want? You know? Let's see. We want to do that. We want to do that. That's obvious. That's obvious. How do we extend this? Do we make a very simple sort of squarish extension there? I think that looks good. Looks a little oaky, but that's okay. And then here, I think it just won't look good unless we do that. Okay, that looks kind of balanced. And then we can just carry that down. So this will be like, I don't know, like an atrium sort of thing going on. The other thing we might be able to do is put ice on top of this just to do like a test. Like I could put ice here and here and here, and then just carry on that pattern and just work my way out from there and prove to myself where the biome border actually is. And just use the old wait and see trick, where you wait and then you see. There's something interesting down there. What is that? Oh, it's the leaves. Huh, that's neat. Just the way the leaves, the blue ice looks through the leaves is really cool. I might even be able to put blue ice under the leaves, so it's like a two-layer barrier. I think that would be kind of neat. Oh no, that's not the way I wanted this to go. That needs to be there, kind of, but more like this, and then this, and then this. And then we just figure out how to connect that to the bottom, and I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And we can just, yeah, I mean, we can even, no, I think I'm going to leave that way. So how does that look from a distance? There you get kind of like the blue sky and the ice. I think that looks pretty neat. Yeah. Okay, and then we'll just carry on the pattern. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Another thing I remember was that last time I made this silly mistake, and you'll never believe how silly of a mistake it was. I forgot to turn my render distance way down before recording because my computer is a potato and it can't handle recording and playing Minecraft at the same time unless I turn the render distance down this low, at least. So yeah, the whole Birch video was really slow. Good thing I remembered this time to turn the render distance down before I started recording. Good thing. Otherwise, that whole last half hour would have gone very choppy again, and that would be silly. We wouldn't want that. Okay, so there's one thing I cannot abide. It is silliness. a lot that's like hanging further down than I want. But you know, I can always subtract. I like the way that that looks. That's got a good silhouette. I like that the crow's nest kind of looks like it's floating from this perspective. It actually looks just a little different. I mean, what I'm really hoping for is something underwater. I'd like to make an underwater base with this spruce tree and use the ice as a dome, but I need to find water, like a body of water underneath this, probably, in order to do that. So I'm relying on there being in this exact little footprint somewhere in the whole column of Earth, that there's some water pool that I can put ice directly in. But maybe I can just do that. Out there, if I go deep enough, it'll be dark enough that I can do that with ice. Here we go. So that's that. That's this. Then that's this. And then that's that. So I just go out here and here. Get rid of that block. And this and that. And then this and this. And then one more time. Well, let's get that finished, and then we can do the whole bell. Okay. Okay. So it's like that, and then like that, and then like this, and like that, and this, and this. Okay. Okay, I like that. Okay. I'll just go in a consistent direction so I don't lose track. Now here it does matter. In the other area it just goes straight down and then intersects with a flat plane. So I can just go all the way down with the leaves and not worry about the curvature. Like I did on the top, but here I need to think about the curvature. Unless I want it to look like a little mushroom cap, I'm probably gonna make it look like like a little I want to say bell, but more I don't know, rounded, like an egg. Yeah, like a long egg. I want it to kind of have that long egg look. Like in Jurassic Park. I've got those dinosaur eggs, and they're a little long. Why are they long? It's kind of weird. Have you seen ant eggs? Ant eggs also look like that. I don't know. It always kind of weirds me out on some sort of a level, like how similar ant eggs and turtle eggs are. It's like they're not really similar creatures at all, but they both have this like leathery sort of shell on their eggs with like almost the same texture. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's a good idea, right? It's a good way to do it. So that must be why it succeeds, but it's just kind of, it's a little uncanny if you ask me. If you ask me if it was like a can, I would say no. It's uncanny. And then you would laugh. Probably you would laugh. But you would then be fully justified in attacking me physically. So that's a bonus. Let's see. No, if somebody makes a pun bad enough, you should be able to attack them. I don't make the rules. That's just the way it is, you know. So watch out. we go. Okay, I like that. That has like a vibe to it. Is there a way into this now? Only from inside. I want to have... I mean, I think it makes most sense to just enclose this and not have a visible bell on the outside. I can just do one step up around the edge to give it that rounded shape. There is a word. There's definitely a word I'm forgetting. I just don't know what it is, so I can't really explain it. Does that look like spruce tree? Does that have spruce tree energy? I think it needs more width on this layer, just like a blanket around, or a skirt. Do they call that a skirt of leaves? Something like that. Okay, that looks a little bit more piney, but I'm going to have to add more layers in order to achieve the effect. We can get rid of this at this height, because that's at least one step above the floor here. And then, like I was thinking about just briefly, I do need to include some kind of staircase to take you down from here. So that's going to be interesting to see how I accomplish that. Let's see, this, and then I'll just not fill in that one corner, and then I'll fill that in from outside. So that's going to look like that, and then this is going to look like this. And I'll just fill in the gap for now, because I still have one more exit. And then we can check, does that look good? Does that look like it makes sense? I don't know, I'm happy enough with it. Let's see, then let's get rid of this. And these blocks. That's going to be interesting. I don't really know what to do with that. Okay. So I think, since I said I'm going to need a staircase, this is the perfect place to do it, since it's the only place I have left to do it. So let's try that. And then this, and that, and this. And then we're almost done. We just need something to move from there to there. We could also do that. And then you go down there, and then there, and then down here to here. Let's actually throw in the stair blocks and just make it complete. So you come down here, come down one step here. This has to go there, and so then it might as well go here. I don't know if any of this is making sense to listen to. Yeah, just talking myself through it. Thinking about that meme. I don't know. I mean, it was in meme format, but I don't know how popular it is. It's just something that says like might fuck around and realize that it doesn't have to make sense to anyone but me. That one's been really helpful. It's been load bearing mental health wise for a couple of days. So thank you to whoever made that post. Okay, then here and here, and then that would bring us up to this point, And then we can make a what you call a gradual ascent, gradual descent down to here. So let's practice. Let's see if that actually makes any sense to walk actually. So there's a gap there. I think I'll just ice that. Yeah, because what's the most important thing to have in a stairwell? Obviously, ice to slip around on. But there's guards. There's little guardrails. So I could also use this as a space to put a vine in. So you have the option of stairs or vining. I could go directly above it and put a glowberry, but that would require a different sort of block. I wonder, I think, yeah, you can. I mean, you can do that. That's so silly. I just don't think you should be able to do that. You can't put glowberries on leaves. They don't let you put glowberries on leaves, but they let you put it on blue ice. I think that's excessively silly. If there's one thing I can't tolerate, it's well, a lack of poison spiders in one's thinking. There we go. I find your lack of poison spider-related solutions to be disturbing. That would be a good name for a company. Poison spider-related solutions. Maybe they could sell like anti-venom. How does that look? That looks okay. Okay, I think I'm going to carry around with this. This is going to have its own skirt of leaves here. And then that is going to have another layer and one more for good measure, but it's just going to look like that. And then we can throw a couple in there, and then we can do a railing with more leaves, more branches. Okay. Okay, so there's a couple things I want to avoid. I want to make this so that it works as a survival build. So I don't want to have a situation where like this, where there's a bunch of holes in the roof. So this is a surface that I consider to be like an interior surface. So I don't want like a clear path up to this guy where like a monster could spawn like up here on this block, for example, and then fall down and eventually like fall down into the house. So I want a matching guard. So I want that anything that falls is going to be falling over the edge and not anywhere within the edge. So I want this to go out further just so it catches that. But I think I'm gonna leave a lot of this like open, or with ice. That's an interesting question. Do I make it leaves? Do I make it ice? I guess I could make it like ice hanging off of that underside, and then just carry this all the way up like this, and just do one more of those maybe, or this. How does that even look? Oh, that looks way too cool not to do. No, that's staying. That is obviously how it's supposed to look. Yeah. And then let's go one more here, all the way up, and then all the way up. And I'll just add more as I need to cover that up, because there's going to be snow. There's going to be snow falling, and it's going to catch. I don't exactly trying to figure out why it hasn't showed up here, but I think it's probably this. So I'm just going to block that off from the light until snow falls. And once it falls, I'm going to try relighting it. Well, because some snow can survive. I think some snow can survive at like low light levels if it's in an ice biome. Maybe I should put like a redstone torch up there instead of the glowberries, just to get it like a softer light on it, or a soul torch, or a soul lantern actually, because it's blue. No, that's a perfect idea. I'm gonna do that before I forget. Yeah, no, that's perfect. Let's see, what do I replace? Oh, I haven't actually, I mean, I'll come back to spruce leaves, obviously, but here. Yeah, I think that looks good. We could even put, no, because I want snow on that very top. And maybe even, like, that. Just like a very neat little detail on the very top. Ooh, that's ice cold. Let's try a little bit more blue. And yeah, why not? Why not throw a little bit more on top? Fill it out a bit. Give it a little perspective, dimensionality, whatever you want to call it, relief. Need some relief. You know, for an artist whose specialty is that kind of work, right? I guess it makes sense. I need real leaf to feel to feel whole. So, you know, that's, I think every artist has their version of that. Okay. One more, and go back to the spruce. And hopefully the fact that I see sea lanterns will help, but maybe I can just use the survival inventory a little bit there. or static inventory. I don't even know. There must be a way to call that. Oh, that actually looks sick. Nice. Huh. And the way that glows like from underneath there. Okay, well let's just hope none of these ice blocks melt. I don't want to get too excited or carried away until... Yeah, because if any of those melt, that's going to be a disaster. Here, I mean, I can always pile more leaves on top, because that'll definitely lower the light level, which lowers the risk of any of these melting. Yeah, I mean, the blue ice won't. That doesn't melt no matter what in my... I think you can even, like, put it up against lava and it doesn't melt. Yeah, but, you know. Roast me for my ignorance if I'm incorrect. Okay. It would be cool to make a lava lantern with ice instead of glass. It's kind of a nonsense concept, but it's kind of why it's appealing. I like that fire and ice sort of aesthetic. Yeah, definitely, where you've got like ice and fire neighboring one another. So that I'm happy with. That gives it a nice like fringe. I want to keep extending that, but at a certain point I'm going to add another layer, another skirt or whatever. But we'll see. That'll happen eventually. It's just a lot of building out with this kind of tree. That's one of the things I like about spruce is it's very opinionated. You know, you can't really see it as like a bundle of points because it's got all these like zigzags of geometry. It reminds me of like radio antennas sticking out at all angles, well actually at specific angles, right? So it's these shelves that you get in spruce trees that I really like. Yeah, this kind of thing. I don't know, especially in the dark back home, when you look at the setting sun, because the sun stays up till like forever. It's like still up at 3 a.m. in the summer, which, you know, never messed with my sleep schedule at all. But you'll see in that weather, you'll see like the sun will be on the horizon for hours and hours and hours. So it just lingers there. It's like it's always hugging the horizon. It almost never leaves it. So, I mean, it does for like an hour or two in the afternoon. But you'll see the silhouettes of the pine trees against the dawn or the dusk, and they look to me like the waveforms that you see in like music, but just like multiplied. Like it's a lot of waveforms and they're standing out against the sky. But they'll do all kinds of silly things. So there'll be places where they loop around. So they'll literally make a 360-degree curl like a snail or a spiral. Yeah, there are burls they'll make. So like big growths of wood, but that I think is caused by a disease. I know that Agrobacterium causes that in other types of trees, and I feel like it's probably also Agrobacterium in spruce trees, but I'm not 100% confident on that. So here it comes down like a beard, and then here it's like not quite as intense. I'm wondering if I like that. I think I might actually like just really make one solid, absolutely crazy, overbuilt icicle that makes a column all the way to the bottom. Because why not? Okay. Okay. Let's get rid of that. Maybe I'll just leave it like that, just to give it a little strangeness. And icicles, the icicles also have this like waviness on them. I mean, that's icicles anywhere, but I don't know. That also just like speaks to me, and it sort of echoes the pine trees. It's like those forms are almost, yeah, echoed, repeated, mimicked between structures. Yeah. I mean, there's no actual connection between them, but it just feels like they're related in some way. Like the trees are mimicking the ice. Or the trees like have that characteristic of the ice. It's also like everything grows really slowly because the arid climate and the cold. So most of the ground cover isn't like there is grasses and like there are grasses and there is shrubbery. There's these little crawling, branchy, bushy things. They're kinnikinnick bushes. So these like waxy leaves and bright red fruit with like this matte finish, not a glossy, as opposed to like a glossy finish. They look like Christmas ornaments actually, but they're out in the summer. Yeah, but most of the places, especially where there's a lot of spruce, but also in the pines. Pines, you'll just get the flora like pine needles. So Podzol in Minecraft is based on that sort of ground type where it's mostly pine needles, and they acidify the soil quite severely and make it hard for basically for anything to grow. So the ground just decomposes in a different way, and it becomes this kind of dark orangey. Yeah, I mean it's just a bunch of pine needles, but they get a little sludgy, and they can hold on to some water. But in the spruce you get like lichen and moss on the ground. So one thing I like about lichen a lot, and actually I mean I think it's a major point of inspiration really, because lichen grows sometimes these structures where it'll connect back to itself. So something will grow up and another thing will grow up next to it, and then the two spindles will get connected by a bridge and just fuse. So I think that's probably where I first saw that sort of idea of like something organic growing and then connecting to itself with like arches. And so even though, you know, lichens don't really have a proper, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I don't think they do have a proper vascular system. So yes, there's like mycelium that all holds them together, but there isn't a dedicated class of cells whose purpose is just to transport nutrients. Now, I need to look into lichen anatomy again, because it's totally possible that I'm wrong about that, or that that information was once, maybe it's outdated. So yeah, certainly something to look at. But my point was, usually things that aren't vascular, like mosses and liverworts, can't grow very tall, and so lichens also can't grow very tall. But the fact that they that they connect back to each other in that way, and form these arches. I think it stands to reason that that lets them be taller. So sometimes they'll grow up to like sort of a centimeter tall. It looks like a coral reef kind of, in miniature, and it's on bare, dry ground. So you walk over it and you hear this crunch, and you're like, how long did that take to grow? And it is like on the scale of decades that it takes to grow. So, stick to the trails, do as little damage to the ecosystem as possible. Um, yeah, but sometimes the mind, sometimes the body needs to wander in order to find one's soul again. So I would never deny somebody that freedom. I also wouldn't deny it to myself. Let's see. Yeah, but I think the lichens are taller because of their structure. I think they wouldn't be able to stand up if they weren't if they weren't holding each other up like that. I need to strike a balance here of like getting obsessed with getting the structure of it to look sort of natural, and just being able to finish, because there's always more you can add. I think a lot of times the art really comes from what you don't choose to add, what you don't choose to depict. Fireweed is big. Used to cut firewood in a burn. So you'd come home and cough into a handkerchief, and there'd be this like black sludge in the bottom. But in a burn, the wood has been dried out mysteriously, so it actually works really well as firewood. And in those places, you see a lot of fireweed the first year, and then you start to see red osier dogwood after. It's also like it's willowy, so it's little willow. So short, a lot of narrow little red canes, and those canes then give off a flush of leaves. Before the end of the summer, they give off this inflorescence, or I think that's what it is called, or catkin maybe. Call it honeysuckle because it's sweet. You can pop it off of the branch and suck on it, and it literally tastes like a little fluffy, like, I don't know, candy treat, like like cotton candy almost. Very, very hippie cotton candy. It's like Flanders nachos or cottage cheese on cucumber slices. So it's like cotton candy in the sense. It's like that Flanders nachos are nachos. For those of you that don't know, that's a Simpsons reference. But I feel like people still know The Simpsons. Is that like deepest lore? Okay. So you might think I didn't do that offset on purpose. And you're welcome to think that. Is it true? What are you talking about? I don't know. Shush. Don't, what do you know? I'm not saying no. No. Who are you? No. And that's 3 tiers, so then there's going to be a 4th tier, and then another jump, and we'll just see if by then I think I'm pretty much done adding new layers to this, because we're already pretty close to the top of the tower, and I don't have any desire to make it any higher than it is currently. I just want to like finish off the structure at the top there. But this is absolutely a very flammable, like, I mean, there's just so many leaves compared to the amount of wood. And spruce trees, they burn, like they burn on purpose. This part of their life cycle. The cones don't actually let their seeds out to germinate until there's been a fire. So the heat of the fire cracks the cone just a little bit, and then water gets in after that, and the seed germinates, and then it grows from there. But there's this whole thing, it's called ecological succession. It's like after a major trauma to an environment, to an ecosystem, there's a whole series of different plants, and it also goes to the fauna, to the bugs and the larger mammals and critters. Basically, different creatures will come and go and be more common in the landscape as this process unfolds, as ecological succession carries forward. So you'll get the fireweed and the red osier dogwood, and then the dogwood grows tall, it falls over. It's actually I think it's a nitrogen fixer, so I think it contributes nitrogen to the soil. And then you get things like birch, poplar, alder, all kind of depending on the climate and also just what happens to be around to provide seed. Like, sometimes the best thing to grow in a biome might not be what's actually growing there, just because of what was neighboring in the environment at the time when the calamity occurred. So it was just like a selection for whatever happened to be present. And you'll see that then replaced by spruce and pine a couple of years in, but it's a long process. Like, it's longer than a human lifetime for sure. So oftentimes, as an individual, you'll see an ecosystem in one state and assume that that's like normal, right? But you might be seeing it 3 or 4 or 5 years after a major fire event or a flood. And so if you know what to look for, you can kind of see how the ecosystem is in flux, how it's changing, not just how it is in the exact moment that you see it. You start to see like the process, the flow of history and of time. So that's something that like always finds its way into my artwork as well, is this decay. I mean, it's why on Instagram, right, I go with clay decay. That was, a reference to like kind of how, everything breaks down over time. Like, the polymer clay I use is PVC, but there are bacteria that are able to break down PVC. It's not without like toxic byproducts, and it's not a good thing to release into the environment. Like, as it breaks down, it releases chlorinated compounds, which are potentially which are carcinogenic. There's no guarantee when you are exposed to a carcinogen that it will give you cancer. It just increases your probability of it. yeah, so I don't want to say like it will definitely give you, but it's carcinogenic. So it, yeah, increases your risk of cancer. Uh, so yeah, don't throw a PVC or like let it break down intentionally because you think it will just be fine. It's a process, right? But you know, everything eventually. Um, well, everything changes eventually. I mean, people are talking a lot about like fluorinated compounds now because their chlorinated compounds are resistant to degradation because the chlorine carbon bond is very strong, and so it's hard to find something that wants to bond more to the carbon that's bonded to chlorine than the chlorine wants to bond to the carbon. So it's like a competition, right? It's like having is like the chlorine is the carbon's wife, and she really doesn't want to go anywhere. So, you know, if you want a chemical reaction to happen, you need something that really wants to pair with the chlorine or really, really wants to pair with the carbon. And fluorine is one of those things that wants to bond with the carbon even more. But the problem is, if you do that, then you've created, fluorinated compounds, which are even more hesitant to break up and break down than chlorinated compounds for similar reasons. It's just fluorine is much more, they call it electronegative, so it sucks up electrons because it has a more positively charged core, larger core. Core, what am I talking about? I'm talking about nucleus. Yeah, that's got a very lantern-y vibe. Is there anywhere you can't really see light coming out from that side, but that's okay. I see the tree, I see the light inside, I see... Yeah, I mean, everything I wanted to depict in this build, I've managed to depict. This is an interesting view from inside. There's, good structure in here. Of course, you can't actually access the interior of the structure from the bottom here. I'm not sure if I kind of want to keep it that way. The only thing I can think is I know that the cherry biome that I made is further back here. Let's see. So the rail line connects there and goes that way. So I want to connect this by rail back to this ice castle. So I might give a platform, but I think that's gonna be for another video because this has already been a pretty hefty build, and I've got a lot of leaves to add. But there does need to be some kind of access from outside. So maybe I should figure that out sooner rather than later. Maybe here? That looks good. So there's just a little place for a doorway. I'm gonna like keep that because it looks like that's connected. I'm gonna keep that as a full circle. There you see it branches out to hold up that second floor. We've got just this, and then we come up here, and there's all that, and there's all that, and there's all this, and this maybe wants a bit of light in this corner so we can actually kind of see. And yeah, I mean, whether or not that ice melts or not is a pretty big deal. So I think I'm gonna not mess with this for a second and just start placing leaves. And then if anything happens with the ice, I'll know. But yeah, I mean, this is not great, but it's kind of fine, you know? Come on. Oh my goodness, alright. Well. well, I was just saying it's fine because you can kind of fall down, but I don't know, rather not have it that way. Maybe I'm underthinking it, but I think I'm overthinking it. Here we go. So now we've got, here there's like enough space. We probably want to start adding more layers, but I'm not going to add anything directly to that main to that main egg shape until I'm happy with how this edge looks. I want this to have a certain something. What do you mean, a certain something? She's beautiful. She's got huge tracts of land. I'd rather just sing. No, you stop that now. Now, you are going to get married to Miss Honey whatever. Whether you like it or not, you're a king. Do you know, this land was a swamp before I brought your family here. They said I was daft to make a castle in a swamp. So I built the castle in a swamp. And it fell over. And so I built another one. That one burned down, fell over, and then sank into the swamp. And it goes on like that. And all this now belongs to you. All the land as what, the curtains? No, not the curtains, the land. You see, the woodland, the wetland, as all the swamp is as far as you can see. But he doesn't want to marry her. You know. Isn't that ironic? It's kind of like having a fork when all you need is a spoon. It's like getting a green light when you just want to slow down. Let's see. Isn't that ironic? It's like a guy named Nick who's made out of iron. It's like the letter E. If it was made out of the metal known by the chemical symbol Fe. Okay. Okay, one more out, and then we'll just bring it back in from there. Okay, I think that looks good. Yeah, I mean, it needs to have this like balance of like structure and organicness. In order to look, yeah, just convincing, look dashing, look charming, look cute. Yeah. So is the whole rail line gonna all be poplar like that? It's like Pando, right? So that's a nice thing about not birch. It was either birch or poplar, but whatever tree Pando is made out of. It's the oldest. It's either the. I think it's the oldest organism. But basically, those trees, they'll send out roots, and then those roots will send out shoots. And those shoots are just clonal copies, basically genetically identical to the root system that shot them up. So they can extend for like hundreds of miles underground, and still shoot up new roots. So, it's already got this sort of like, just by virtue of how that forms, you've got a root system that's sending up multiple shoots. It's already one organism, it's all grafted together, and underground, it's already got these lateral connections. So it's already got all of the necessary, like, it's the same, it's homeomorphic. It's like the same structure, but like underground and the ground line being, I don't know, the layer of the soil being the first layer that those connections hold up. Here. Let's make this out of ice. So there's like a little ice railing. I just think that's neat. I just think that's cute. There we go. So then this, and then we can pop up there and get that all the way to the top. So that looks natchy. We can just carry it on and make it look sort of natural. And bring that up to here, and then this up a couple more blocks, and then that, fill that in, bring that there. I like that. I kind of want to put something here. Yeah, just to give it a little bit of depth. And sort of like a 3D, yeah, because there's different layers of transparency, there's different layers of like form here. So you've got sort of the ice, you've got the leaves sort of filling in some of this. I want to put a little bit of detailing here, but I'm gonna keep it very, very just restrained, because I do also want light to be able to get into this egg. There we go. There we go. That's basically what the plot of Death Note is about anyway. Although maybe it's more like L getting into light. I think this is an important question that scholars have been arguing about for a couple decades now. Which one is the uke and which one is the seme in that relationship? But I think, the real answer is that it's a toxic ship. I guess I could put some poison spiders on this and then it would be a toxic ship. Much to consider. Many wise words were spoken that day. And that's why they call it a wizard's tower. It's not a lizard's tower. Lizards don't think that hard. Okay, do we leave this little section bare? Do we... No, I think we have to... I think it makes sense anyway to have a little pizzazz there, but maybe actually let's just do that. And then it has some structure. It doesn't look just flat, but it's also like, what does that look like from the ground? That's kind of terrifying, to be totally honest. It has this very imposing, ominous sort of presence. I'm a big fan. Oh, darling, you're looking so looming and ominous today. I guess that's basically a relationship in Oh, what's the name? That like gothic yandere situation. Okay, so if anything falls down on there or in here, you can just kick it away. A creeper shouldn't be a problem. I think here a creeper would be a problem, so let's get rid of that. Yeah, there are still baby zombies. Okay, anyway, point is, we've got this enclosed, we've got that enclosed. I want to have some lighting in here. I want to get all 4 corners. I want to get this area, but then again, I don't want to cause any deluge. So maybe if I put 1 set of glowberries here, the situation will forgive me, but, well, I really don't know. This might be another wait and see sort of situation. Maybe I'll just stick with this and then put this here and fill that in. Yeah, okay. So we have ice, pine needles through ice, ice through pine needles. Just different layers of transparency. I'm a big fan. Okay. I did want access to the outside, so that was the whole point of this. So let's do it like that. So if anything lands here, it won't land there, but yeah, things can like fall past. And this is why I was thinking about it, because I'm wondering, do I put a rail line coming out of there, or do I have it coming into the bottom? I don't know. Okay. Huh. I haven't decided whether I love this build or hate it, but regardless of my personal feelings towards it, I do think that for now it is complete. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, like, share, comment, subscribe. I've got a Patreon if you feel like following me on there. Thank you for Sasha, who supports me on there and has for a number of years. And as always, no matter who you are, no matter what you're going through, it is always Tuesday. And have a great day.